is an irony, just like animal farm. Justice mean inequity, so who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Christian can say silence, Islamic leaders silence, kings and queens silence, traditional leaders silence. So who go say the truth? We are the workers of composite call. Now by area, why no better? We are the workers of composite call. One guy's out here, why no better? Who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Oh, he need it now, see what I see so. Now your friend on a nine come as them. Only papi obeka nice and beer. So I want one, I bet you were two. Everybody was afraid. And until I learned to my cottage again, once my boy dumping one and I see. But who go tell the truth? Nanai or say me. Nanso bien person beka wasam because everybody is afraid. Anya safwe muayini. Aku drop on yina dalima. And who go say the truth? Obiaja konson so to grow your mansa to me be a kakobrafo. Efo anyina ye. Efo when you know yet. Na so kutrata down na so be dia back or why no keke. I fene for be man mo pia for efo ne cross on my mo. Anya safwe mo ayini. Akuku drop for you na dalima. And who go say the truth? Abaya di bote chino. Yedi bi bebo nyande bi. Tachi sa udi oma upipi numa. Would your mind never shine my preference? But who go tell the truth? TUC, silence. Even journalists, silence. Oh, then who go say the truth? Right is right. Wrong is wrong, no matter how you justify. You say you wanna get rid of corruption. Someone want to help you, now the person become your target. Jobless no they mean senseless, poverty no they mean useless. One day them go resist.
Hello once again and welcome to another edition of MyView, coming to you live on Today Ghana News TV. We are live also on Switch via satellite, on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube, all on Today's Ghana News TV. You can also follow us on Twitter and TikTok and also on podcasts on Anchor FM. My name is Jerome and it is my pleasure to welcome you once again to MyView. The ability of the media to function effectively as a fourth estate is marked fairly on the maximum cooperation it receives from the different entities within our society at whose service it operates. Recently, concerns have been raised in Ghana about the spate of assault and intimidation against media practitioners, and the action appears to hinder the independence and growth together with the development of the media landscape. The assault and intimidation in Ghana can be traced to three sources: the security agencies, the communities and the individual citizens, and supporters of political parties. One big question that we need to find the answer in today's show is simply, does the government harass journalists or media practitioners, and better still, their political opponents in this, our democratic dispensation? What are your views on this? You want to know my views? What are our views? Kindly stay tuned. When we come back, I will introduce to you my guest for this evening's show.
Mampam also untie so dogo binwa bem mampam also untie nani amuka nyina guna swati move swara mampam also untie move swara mampam also untie. Once upon a time, animal called Mampam. Anything where them go bring 'em. Mampam said that king know the force. Tiger was a king. Mampam said he know the force. Elephant come. Mampam some better than you. The peaceful creature panda. Mampam said I want to know the force. Lion became a king. Mampam said I want be the worst ever. Monsomeria. Mampam now become a king. All the crawling animals, everybody become minister. Ya ton ya color TV. Ya dibia so sort of black and white. Oh my koneti, oh my titi apan sam kura. Oh my ni ma Chinese yo, oh my so. Paso auntie, so dogo binwa bem. Paso yo, nani amuka nyina guna swati, mube swara. Mampam, Osanti, Mubeswasu, Mampam, Osamuyo. Mampam, what you say, Omanisu, already originally. Na, Ojan will be a moon. No, just what then and be a so will be more. Mampam, Babusia. Chano hinibia watu na kunyana sopen. Ye umuni odeye amim samni hakasi samukwa. Ya toa yanto ya tio maimu tisa mafrafo areho. Sakio tujini oje tuono na odi tuono. Omuni so dogo binwa bem. Na mampam no so antie no. So dogo binwa bem. Mube swara mampam oso antie. Babylon so antene ho. Eho ne taya yeti misuono. Emra ye Kaizayon, ye Kaizayon. Sambra Bejiane. No host to continue so. I want to be in same course in Senia. Never day up 20 June and an for as I say so.
So, welcome once again to MyView, and I'm very privileged this evening that I have no other person but my own brother, Sekou Dennis, who happens to be a freelance journalist and an opposition activist. He joins us this evening to help us assess how journalism is being practiced, and if there are any harassment from the government side on journalists, and especially with reference to the opposition people. So where we are, Brother Dennis, you are most welcome. And I'm sure a lot of people want to hear a bit about yourself and who you are and how best you can help us to answer these questions. You are most welcome.
Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you. Well, I think you already introduced me. I'm a journalist. I mean, you can call me political journalist, investigative journalist, freelance journalist. Yeah, but I'm a trained journalist, but I don't work for a particular media house because I'm a media house on my own. So I I put my services to the public good, and I do ghostwriting as well. So a lot of my work is work that you don't see my name or my byline, but I basically do a lot of writing, ghostwriting.
Okay.
Indeed, and of course I'm well known for my political activism and my center left social democratic credentials and my revolutionary aspirations. So I always say that I describe myself as a public intellectual who is trapped in partisan political idiosyncrasies. So I Ghana first, but sometimes I'm an NDC man too. So sometimes my political inclinations interfere with my public intellectual discourse. But I try to make sure that every time that my obligation is to the truth and my loyalty to the public, as we're trained in journalism school.
Yeah, well, if your loyalty is the truth to the public, I'm pretty sure you go with the aspirations of the former president, Jerry John Rawlings, certainly.
Absolutely. They call some of us Rawlings boys because we have tried to espouse the fundamental principles that form the bedrock of the NDC, the principles of probity and accountability, of integrity in public office, transparency, and we have also tried to practice positive finance in our quest to build internal democracy within our own party and also democracy in our country as a whole. That is why we have adopted these values of courage and fearlessness, speaking truth to power without fear or whatsoever, because we have learned that our forebears they had nothing but courage, and this courage that enabled people like President Rawlings and his friends to be able to emerge as natural leaders after June 4, when the people of Ghana became fed up with the corruption at the top, and they all decided enough was enough.
That's wonderful. Now let's look at what we want to look at: governmental interference or harassment of journalists or opposition members. Yes. But if you look at it, since the 1992 Constitution came into existence, the issue of media practitioners or media practitioner has been on a high side. Yes. And so probably, well, I will not want to categorize the different regimes yet. But how free, because this is freedom of speech, how free is this today? Our freedom of expression and freedom of media practice in the country. How free is it today?
Well, I guess that it will depend on which side of the aisle that you are sitting at. Maybe if you are a journalist who works for Daily Guide newspaper, you might say that media freedom is 150% in our country because you are singing the tune of the government and you are propagating the position of the government, and therefore you are not censored. But if you are a critical voice who is holding government to its toes, holding government's feet to the fire, then it's a different story. Then it is like Idi Amin said some years ago that you can have freedom of speech, but you will not have freedom after speech. Well, I think what we have in our country now, yes, we have freedom of speech, but people do not have freedom after speech. Because a lot of people in the past 3-4 years, not just people, journalists, trained journalists, practicing journalists and media practitioners have been arrested, detained in custody, in police custody, for merely expressing their views, for merely practicing free speech, for merely taking a public position on issues that are not palatable to government. And I can give you several examples. It even led to the death of one journalist of Tiger PI, a journalist who was actually an undercover journalist, Mohammed Swale, and whose cover was blown by a member of parliament and a member of the ruling MPP, Honorable Kendra Japan, who blew the cover of this journalist and even instigated a hoodlums to go after this journalist. This journalist was eventually assassinated, and this member of parliament still goes around calling himself honorable. Indeed, he even now has announced he wants to become president of Ghana. That is the level of impunity that has engulfed our country, whereby people have taken the law into their own hands. It's no more rule of law, but the rule of man. Because at the end of the day, you can see clearly that the security forces they are a law unto themselves. It's like a lot of evil has taken over our country. And evil does not obey laws. Evil actually creates the laws. So if you have evil men in uniform, evil men in national security, evil men in government, the law, they don't obey the law. They actually use the law as an instrument of oppression. And what we are seeing now is a situation where a president who claims to be a human rights activist or lawyer, and who rode on the back of this claim, this sham of an image to become president, suddenly he is not interested in dissenting views. And it is not just a few, so many people getting arrested just for merely, I myself have been a victim of this government, whereby if you try to expose corruption, if you try to demand accountability, they go after you. My friend Bobie Ansa, who published a story about the first lady of Ghana, Rebecca Kufado, and some state lands, they arrested him. They put him in court. When it is that Mensa Thompson, another civil rights, civil society group activist, came up with a story about the presidential jet and how the president and the family were using it. He was put into court. Now, journalists may not always get it right. There are times that journalists get it wrong. They get wrong information, or they are misled by their sources and informants. The same way that government officials also get it wrong. The same way that the judges also get it wrong. The same way that the parliamentarians also get it wrong. So people don't have to go to jail because they got it wrong with their work. But even in Ghana, people don't go to, the journalists don't go to jail because they have erred in their work. They go to jail because they have stepped on the toes of government. They have tried to expose government, to expose corruption, to investigate national security, for example. And it is becoming very scary. It is becoming really very scary because the media itself, the Ghanaian media, the press, I prefer to call a section of this Ghanaian press the prostitute media, and I call it prostitute because these are media houses or press houses who are for the highest bidder. Their loyalty is not to the public. Their obligation is not to the truth. Their loyalty is to the highest bidder, and their obligation is for their survival, their economic survival, their personal interest. So you have a situation where media men and whistleblowers and civil society activists are picked up by government, by security agencies. They are detained for more than 48 hours, and media houses refuse to report it. They refuse to report it. Media houses actually turn a blind eye to the arrest and detention of journalists in this country. I was personally arrested by the National Security Force, and this was in the process where I was investigating a case of abuse of power by National Security Force, who were arresting people, business people, legally registered business people. They arrest them, they extort their money and etc. They take their gold, they take their cars, they put them in jail, they put some spurious charges on them, and if you're unlucky, they deport you, they take your etc. And when I was investigating this story, I managed to even infiltrate themselves, and they themselves were telling me the things that are going on within the system. They wrote how it is that the government officials are using the state apparatus to commit all kinds of illegal acts. And for investigating them, they picked me up, put me in detention for 6 days without a charge, and claimed that I was taking videos and pictures in the court. And then eventually brought me back to the court. They did not have a report to give to the judge because they didn't want the judge to know what it is that the real truth is. So they then went to the judge and went to print out personal social media messages I was writing in my WhatsApp to go and give to the judge. To tell the judge I was insulting her when I was in court. My private messaging I was doing with my team members. Whilst I was in court, I was reporting to my team members my observations. These guys took me for 6 days, and the report they took back to the judge was my private chats in my private a team group about my impressions in court. This is how really unserious they are. And so at the end of the day, the judge said, "Listen, young man, you are free to go. You have insulted me. I didn't really insult her, I was describing her. And you are free to go." They still arrested me again. That is the level of impunity. They still arrested me, went and put me back into jail, and the following day they tried to get me again, etc. Before I was leaving. So I'm just giving you this as an example, and I haven't told this story yet. I haven't told this story yet because time is very important. I'm listening to what went on when I was in jail. I'm investigating the media attention that was on it, even the media houses that actually turned a blind eye to it. And then I realized that the reason why this impunity goes on is because the media has become NDC NPP, and the media has become prostitutes, and the media is no more interested in defending itself. The principle is no longer relevant to the media. They just look at who are you. If you are an NDC man, then all the so-called NPP press, they will abandon you. If you are critical of government and you are arrested, they just allow you to roast because their obligation is not to the truth, their loyalty is not to the public. But more interestingly, the civil society organization that stood up, that spoke against impunity, a so-called culture of silence, and who castigated the previous government for all kinds of little infractions, they are all quiet. They are selective in who they talk for and who they don't talk for. If you are their friend, they will talk for you. If you are not their friend, then they don't talk for you. That is the big problem we have in our country. So President Akufo-Addo has encouraged everybody to try to be a citizen and not a spectator. But as soon as you attempt to be a citizen and not a spectator, you are in trouble. I'll give you one last example before you probably can ask me your next question, which is something that happened just last week. And I'm putting this out here because it is important to make the point that the impunity continues unabated. Last week, there's a young man who petitioned the office of the special prosecutor. His name is Daniel Kwesi Amponi. This young man, if you Google his name, you'll find that he petitioned the office of the special prosecutor to investigate the former Minister for Works and Housing, Honorable Atachia, for allegedly signing some dubious contracts. The office of the special prosecutor, instead of going about the investigation of Atachia, the former minister, they rather went to arrest the petitioner. The young man who petitioned the special prosecutor's office was arrested by the special prosecutor's office, and they put him in the police station in Osu for 3 days. They didn't give him access to a lawyer. They didn't allow him to call his family or his friends. They put him there for 3 days. Pure impunity. And this is the office of the special prosecutor that's supposed to prosecute crime. And the young man petitioned them to investigate crime. And they rather arrested the young man and they detained him illegally for more than 48 hours. When I got the wind of the story and I put it on social media, I put it on Facebook, on the 3rd day, as soon as they saw the information was out, they released the young man. Then they still keep his food, they keep his car for more than 1 week now. They have not been able to charge the young man. They let him out without a charge. They gave him a bail without surety because the young man has committed no crime. He was just a whistleblower. So what kind of system are we in where somebody actually petitions the investigative body set up by the president to investigate corruption, and then the person himself is picked up. And his human rights abused. He's kept for more than 48 hours. This is the impunity that we are experiencing in our country right now. If something is not done, if the opposition forces don't come together strongly, if the voices don't become more resounding, I am afraid that the violence we saw in 2020 will be comedies compared to the violence that we anticipate in 2024.
Yeah, but from all indications, as you rightly said, if you are not for the government and you are against the government and something is coming up, you have an issue, then it means that one side turns a blind eye. So even what it simply means is that whatever the government is doing, whether good or bad, they will continue to praise that for the government because that is where they find their bread. Now, there are yes, please. There are some of the foundations that have come up to fight for media freedom and all that, like Media Foundation for West Africa.
That's right.
Media Foundation for West Africa was very, very, let me say, very prominent in the media landscape somewhere in 2014. When 2014, that was when the NDC was in office.
Yes.
Even there were some just 8 cases of media violations that came up, and they issued a very strong statement. As compared to the current administration, I do not know if the Media Foundation for West Africa still has the correct to bite, because all the infractions that have come up, even from Ahmed Swali and the rest till this point, we are not seeing the pressure from them. What would have been the source of this intimidation for them?
What I can show you is that the Media Foundation of West Africa remains the last bastion of a bulwark of press freedom country. The guy Suleiman Ibrahim, he's not my friend.
Yeah, Suleiman Ibrahim.
Yes, and I can assure you that the Media Foundation for West Africa right now is playing the role of the GGA because the GGA has completely sold out. The Ghana Journalists
Association, who comes to that?
Sold out. Yes, they completely sold out. They are not interested in the welfare of journalists. They even condemn journalists who are arrested. For example, I'm arrested in the court and taken to detention. The national security puts out some lies that I'm arrested because I was following the court procedure and I was taking pictures, etc.
Taking pictures.
He's supposed to go out there and say, listen, this man is a trained journalist. We know him. He's professional. And even if he took a picture of you in the court, it is not a crime. It is not in the criminal code. You cannot put him in jail for more than 48 hours without a charge. On the basis that he took a picture or video, that is still a violation of his human rights. But what do they do? What they do is rather to say, oh, but you see, this is the problem. As all the journalists, they behave as if they are beyond the law. The journalists are not above the law. You're not supposed to take videos in the court. So they are rather blaming you, not based on the facts they've heard, but based on the lies that the national security and the government put out. So the GIG has become a conduit for government to then create false flags when it is that they want to suppress press freedom. So if you have the GIA themselves, instead of defending the journalists, come out to justify the action of government on the basis that journalists are not above the law. But the national security are not above the law. They are the ones who are supposed to enforce the law. So if the law says you cannot put anybody in detention for more than 48 hours without taking them to court, charging them, why should they do it and go without any eyebrows being raised just because they are controlled, they run the government? The government is supposed to serve the people, and the national security, the police, the BNI, the whatever, they all work for the state, but they are controlled by the government. They are supposed to be neutral. But you have a situation whereby policemen and soldiers are ordered by government to go and shoot 7 people, 8 people in the Tajima South election night. They obey, nobody makes noise. On the 7th of January, they go to besiege the Parliament House. Soldiers went to besiege the Parliament House. And they nearly made a coup d'etat in this country. Nobody has condemned it. Nobody has demonstrated. Nobody has gone out there. I totally think that the passive opposition is also contributing to this situation. Apart from the compromised media, the passive opposition, because the opposition leadership is so divided. You have the NDC leadership that seem to be in this state of mind that says that the government is messed up so much that they will just automatically feel it, and we will just come to power by default. They're not thinking about their own strength. They're thinking about the weakness of their opponent, and therefore you have a situation where the opposition party that should be organizing more aggressively towards 2024, they are sitting down, and the ruling party has reorganized their party to the point that they have even conducted regional elections. They are now about to go for national elections and to choose their flag bearer for 2024. This is the ruling government. And the opposition NDC is now doing re-registration, and they are yet to go for branch elections, as though they are rather the ones in power. So you can see. Meanwhile, the opposition NDC should be using all these things that are going on in the country, the high fuel tax prices, the e-levy, the suppression of press freedoms, the corruption in government. This is what the opposition should be using to mobilize the masses, to bring them out of apathy, to resist this oppressive rule, to prepare their minds that in 2024 it will be good for good. But there's so much apathy among the opposition because today there's a Fix the Country that are out there that are standing to a one-man show, and the guys are dissociating themselves from the NDC, trying to act like they are some separate force. And then you have the CPP, the PNC, who are divided. Half of the executive supporting NDC, half supporting NPP. They are totally divided. So the opposition front must be organized, mobilized, and people must bury their egos and know that Ghana needs to be rescued. And therefore, people must not assume that just by the mere mismanagement or impurity that is going on, that Ghanaians should just go and vote against these people. Because don't forget, in 2020, Ghanaians voted again for the MPP. You can say they stole the election. You can say all kinds of conspiracy theories. But it's like a musical chair. When the music is playing, and everybody dances on the chair. Yeah. At the end of the day, when the music stops, it's about who is sitting on the chair. Yeah. If you are not on the chair, you have to get off the stage. If you ever complain, you say they pushed you, it won't change the result. So my colleagues can say, oh, 2020 MPP stole the election. But if you open your eyes, they will not be able to steal it. 2024, if you don't open your eyes, they will steal it again because they say they have a plan to break the 8. But what is the opposition doing to let Ghanaians understand that there should not be any chance to even allow these people to break the 8? We are not taking advantage to mobilize the people to resist the process rule. And I think it's because the opposition leadership is so passive, some of them so compromised, some of them even facing prosecution. Don't forget that the national chairman of the NDC, the national chairman, is facing criminal prosecution for some incendiary remarks he made that are on tape. So if a man is supposed to be leading and commanding the opposition for troops, and this man is fighting for his own freedom in court, he's compromised. It means he cannot really call for war. He can't call for good, and therefore we are totally unprepared. And I'm afraid that if we are not careful, if we really are not careful, and we don't allow some house cleaning within the opposition, I'm afraid that these guys in government, Akufo-Addo may be retiring, but I think that when they say they want to break the eight, they have a plan. And the media, until the shackles are removed from the media, from the legs of the media, until the voices of the media is regained, I don't see how that the opposition is going to be able to neutralize their plan to break the eight. Because don't forget, they closed down all opposition media houses. Just only recently they gave back Radio Gold to the NDC.
Yeah.
So for 4 years, 5 years, you have no voice. Now you are getting to the point of election. They say, okay, you can have your voice back. Just one voice, one radio station. They have emasculated the opposition so much, and yet the opposition is passive. I don't expect this level of passivity from the opposition leadership. I'm disappointed at the level of passivity, at the way that how slowly the opposition is moving and reorganizing. It is a shame, and I think that the opposition must up its game in order to rescue this country from this current impunity under the NPP government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Yeah, let me just drift a little.
Yes.
I wanted to look at the appointments of media practitioners in the current government as compared to the previous NDC government.
Yes.
Does that really mean that all the information or the news that were put up by all these seasoned journalists, name them, Odom Ochre,
yes,
he has been appointed. Look at this guy at Peace FM, Tefakai. He has been he got appointment. Look at this guy from Joy FM. He's almost all of them have received appointments.
Yeah, but Joy FM, there are so many of them. Neo Sabote.
Sabote.
Also Malik.
Yeah, Malik Dabo.
Yeah, he also went to I think civil aviation, something like that. One of those organizations. Anyway, but they're all over the place. I think Malik went to the Maritime Authority.
Maritime Authority.
Exactly, and Osabote went to the NPE, and the other guy went to the Omar FM guys at Cocoa Board. And Cocoa is at the airport. They're all in position. My old friend also at Ghana Gas, etc. Now, I personally, in principle, I'm not against the appointment of journalists into public office. I'm a political journalist. I'm a journalist with political inclination, and therefore, I believe in the left of center politics. I believe that we are all not created equal. We are all not talented equal. We are all not inherited equal, and some people will always be ahead of others. And when you are capable, you should be as a communitarian society. If you are capable, you should be able to pull your brother along, because without everybody else, you are not there. I mean, we're coming from an extended family system. Many of us were cared for in school by our uncles, by aunts, by the social support system, by the safety net, and therefore I cannot subscribe to pure free market economics or free market capitalism, or what they call monopoly capitalism, whereby the individualism becomes the center of your life, whereby you're just thinking about acquiring more houses, building more, buying more cars, material things as an individual, whilst the masses around you are suffering. I don't believe in that. I believe in egalitarianism. I believe that there's enough resources to go around and everybody can live comfortably, if not for greed. It is greed that poisons men's souls, and it's greed that has brought about poverty. It's not for lack of resources that there is poverty in the world. It's just for the sake of greed, because some people want to amass 80%, just 2% of the world want to hold 80% of the wealth of the world, and the rest of the 80% now have to share 20% of the wealth of the world. That is the social injustice that exists in terms of classism and this class society that we live in. And so I subscribe to the left of center politics because I think that is a paradigm that can lead to a redistribution of incomes. And that is why some of us are NDC, that's why some of us are social democrats. And even if the NDC does not really, when it comes to office, does not really adhere strictly to the principles because of pragmatic reasons, it is still, for me, it is still the people-centered, largest people-centered party in our country. And therefore, naturally, we are inclined to the NDC. And therefore, if someone like me, if the NDC comes to power and decides that Sakut, you are not just a journalist, you are also somebody that is a media, you have interest, you've traveled wide, you work in international relations, you've studied you studied international relations, and you've studied strategic communications, you've traveled around Europe, you want to give an appointment to go and do some business with the Europeans. Maybe we are making you high commissioner, we are making you in charge of this organization. I will gladly accept such an appointment because I'm versatile. I'm not just a journalist. But once you go to university, you are trained to think critically. You can fit in many rules. It's not just about being a journalist. And besides, the work of a journalist can also help with in the governance. So I totally have no problem with that in principle. But then, when journalists are appointed, because we are the watchdogs of society, we have to understand that we have to be above reproach because we hold everybody's feet to the fire. We hold everybody accountable. And therefore, when we are appointed, we must be accountable ourselves.
Definitely.
We cannot be the ones who are telling everybody, pointing fingers at everybody. And yet, at the end of the day, the least opportunity we get, we want to become worse than the people that we have been pointing fingers at. And that's the main reason why I personally decided to take the petition to Shraj when it is that Poladomocho, who has been hosting Good Evening Ghana all these years, and he's always, every evening he's criticizing somebody, he's criticized Mahama for several years, criticized that. And suddenly, this guy is appointed and put in a role where he actually has no expertise. And I remember I said in principle, I have no problem with journalists getting an appointment. But if you are going to appoint me, you have to look at my background, what I've studied, and what I'm capable of, my experience, before you give an appointment. For example, you cannot just come and appoint Sakut to go and be a board chairman of energy commission when I have no idea about energy.
No idea.
I've never about energy. I've never been in the energy sector. It's ridiculous. I want him to appoint me, but I want him to put me maybe in a media commission, maybe in some embassy somewhere in the foreign land because I've got some experience in international business. Maybe in some communication, maybe Minister of Information because I'm a journalist, because I'm a writer. But or maybe somewhere where my expertise can be brought to bear. But if you go and just put me as a square peg in a round hole, you are not doing the country a good service. But be that as it may, you get into the office and you go and spend so much money to buy Christmas trees to decorate, and you even usurp the role of the chief executive officer because you are board chairman. And board chairman, you don't do day-to-day running of the company.
Day-to-day running, yeah.
You are advisory board. So for a board chairman to now go and engage in procurement, breach the rules, break the laws entirely to benefit himself. And what happened? At the end of the day, nobody was even interested, despite the public uproar, nobody was interested, both NDC and MPP side. They were not interested in investigating this guy. Why do I say so? Because I started by telling you about the prostitute media. Poladomochi is a typical example of the prostitute media, or rented press in our country. Because Poladomochi is a friend of the NDC. He's also a friend of the NPP. Poladomochi worked with Mahama when Mahama was president. He was in the corridors of power with David Lamte and all these NDC bishops who were in power. Poladomochi is a friend not only of Mahama, he's also a friend of even Kobina before, and all the senior people in the NDC. The same guy is a friend of Akufo-Addo, and Akufo-Addo has given him a job, and he's working for Akufo-Addo's government. So when a guy like this goes to mess himself up at the airport, what happens? MPP is not interested in investigating him. NDC is not interested in investigating him, which means that it is not about a principle. As long as the person who gets involved in public abuse, public office abuse or corruption, as long as they are our friend, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to call for accountability. We don't want to seek social justice. But if the person is not our friend, that is why we are interested in seeking social justice. So this is the problem. I petitioned Strike to investigate Paul. The NDC people were not interested. MPP people were not interested. And so you will realize that only a few media houses were reporting it. Some will put it on their portals, but they won't put it on radio. They don't want to put it on TV. They don't want to give it prominence. Meanwhile, this is a journalist, and he should be held above reproach. And we are not prepared to scrutinize our own colleague who goes to mess up more than the politician because he's our friend. How can we progress without the principle? How can we bury the principle and expect to progress as a country? And that's why sometimes I get myself caught up between being a public intellectual, which is to be a voice of the voiceless.
The voiceless.
And also being a social democrat, a political activist and animal belonging to the NDC, whereby you must go with a group think, because political parties go with group think. You are not allowed to disagree with your general secretary or your chairman or even your communications team members. You are supposed to speak in tandem. But when you see that the principle is buried, that is where I become a public intellectual. That's why sometimes I put aside my partisan political card and I put on my cap as a journalist, as a public intellectual, and I speak out of line with my, or out of step with my party at a great risk. But that, I guess, is what defines the difference between the man in the arena and the follower. Because at the end of the day, our obligation, trained as journalists, our obligation is to the truth. Our loyalty is to the public. So I don't have a problem in principle with journalists getting appointed. I would like to be appointed when my party is in power. But journalists who get appointment must live above reproach, must be scrutinized even more critically than ordinary persons who are appointed, because we are a fourth estate and we must always be on a higher moral high ground than everybody else. That's my personal belief.
Yeah. Then let's look at it from this angle, because from this discussion, then you see that if it is the NDC side and it's a friend of the NDC, they're trying to turn their blind eye. If the MPP side, they also try to turn their blind eye. Can we therefore say that the political parties within our democratic dispensation are contributing to the issues of assault and harassment of journalists themselves?
Indeed, the passivity, as I made a point earlier on, the passivity of the opposition, combined with the emasculated media, is actually encouraging government to continue with impunity against media persons and citizens in general. Because at the top of the political elite, there is no NDC and MPP. At the top of the political elite. Why do I say so? There's a syndrome, and if you remember President Lawrence, may his soul rest in peace, he used to talk about what they call scratch my back, I scratch your back.
I scratch your back.
At the top of the political elite, they're scratching each other's back. Because why? My brother, in 2016, the NPP came to power on the back of their campaign against corruption in the NDC government. And Ghanaians believe that President Mahama was a totally corrupt president. His government were totally corrupt. They were stealing so much money that got involved in so much malfeasance. And they were meant to go to jail as soon as the NPP came to power. Public accountability. For 85 years, nobody in the NDC has been prosecuted, even though some of them may be in court, but we have heard nothing. Before that, in the year 2008, when Professor Morris became president, in 2009, and after Kufuor had come to do the Hotel Wawa and the kickbacks and all the money that they were supposed to have stolen, all the passports that were missing from the foreign minister Akufo-Addo's office, all the cocaine that had been washed ashore by tsunami, all these things took place. And the NDC came to power in 2009 on the back of the corruption of the MPP government. And for 8 years, nobody went to jail. Atamal said, let things be. In fact, it was one of the reasons why President Mills and President Rawlings went at loggerheads with each other. Because at the end of the day, they said, just let things be. Just let things be. So you see, at the top of it all, when they talk about corruption, it's just for the purpose of winning power. But after the power is won, then it is that they begin to talk about, oh, you know, let's be humane. After all, our time also come. Let's scratch your back. Let's scratch your back. So everything about prosecuting former government officials or even current government officials is always a sham. It's just a gimmick. It's only President Mahama who succeeded in prosecuting Abuga Pele, who was a member of Garabaga, and he actually put him in jail. It is President Akufo-Addo who came and relieved and pardoned Abuga Pele. But he himself has not prosecuted anybody in the NDC. He has not prosecuted anybody in the NPP, despite all the people who have been caught in corrupt jails. He has cleared all of them. They are still pushing a Japan. Majamidu, the special prosecutor that President Akufo-Addo himself appointed, ended up running away and accusing the President Akufo-Addo of being the mother serpent of corruption, hiding under the innocent flower. This is a man who was appointed by Akufo-Addo himself to fight corruption. So, if the political opposition were really to stand up strongly for the people and to mobilize the masses, I believe that this impunity would have reduced, if not stopped, because Akufo-Addo would be afraid that if he's not careful, if he does, but what has happened is that the opposition has demonstrated clearly that it's two-fledged bulldogs. Some of them compromised, some of them are completely afraid. They're afraid to get involved. You remember Ayahuasca West Wagon when there was the by-election, and there were all these invisible forces who had been taken there to go and create confusion. A kind of boot for boot that you know, go and take guns and go and also shoot and all that. But to start firm, to refuse to withdraw from the election, to make sure that the right thing is done, to call for accountability. But as soon as they started, the hoodlums started misbehaving, our national chairman called for a withdrawal of the party from the elections. They had a full day, they won the elections, they did investigations into the disturbances. Shraj recommended prosecution and removal of Azugu and all these people. They did nothing. The president decided to bullshit the white paper. Okay, at the end of the day, or the investigation from Shraj. So the opposition has failed the masses. And the opposition has failed the masses because the opposition is passive. The masses are passive. The opposition leadership must bring the masses out of this passivity and to let them understand that we are in danger and that we are getting to that brink whereby if we are not careful, we might have another June 4, another 1979. Spontaneous. Look, people are on the street. I can assure you, people cannot even afford 1 square meal a day. Prices are escalating, skyrocketing to the extent that you will not believe it. Just a month ago, my brother traveled from Upper East to come and visit me in Accra. When he was coming, he bought a ticket for 170 Ghana cedis to come and visit Accra. 1 month later, he was going home 2 days ago. He went and bought a ticket from the same bus for 220 Ghana cedis. Just 1 month after he came to Accra, and he's going back home, and the thing is almost double. That is just transport fare for public transport. Just imagine how much it is now to buy fuel into your car. The gallon is now 50 Ghana cedis. A gallon is now 50 Ghana cedis. So when you buy 50 Ghana cedis, actually just a drop in your tank. And people cannot use their air conditioners anymore, even when it is 35 degrees. Because if you use the air conditioner, you are going to have to push your car in the middle of the road when there's traffic jam. People cannot afford square meals. Crime is escalating. Policemen are becoming robbers. Policemen are robbing the bullion vans. And policemen are even killing policemen.
Yeah.
That's right. So there's even an implosion. The national security has become the threat to our the national security itself that's supposed to protect us. They are the ones who have become the threat to the citizenry because they are the ones who are committing the crimes. The criminals are all coming from there, and they are shooting each other to kill each other so that they don't expose themselves. That is the level of impunity. I think the reason why we haven't had an explosion or implosion or another due fall in our country is because the young people, and this is my personal diagnosis.
Okay.
The young people of 2022 are not the young people of 1979. The young people of 2022 are so timid, so cowardly, so sycophantic that they cannot stand up and say positive defiance. They cannot stand up and say enough of NDC, MPP, enough of House and protocol. Ghana first. We don't care if we die, like what Rollins and his colleagues did. If we had the young people of 1979 today, I can assure you that we will not be sitting here having this conversation. But because of the timidity of our young people of today, the timidity of our young people of today, I don't know what has caused the timidity. If it is the internet, I don't know if it's the internet and the fact that the internet produces all this dopamine that is just dulling young people. Young people have become zombies. They are on their phones every minute, clicking. And when you invite them, they have now become clicktivists. No more activists. Because the activists are the ones who will go to the ground, who will step on the street, who will say, look, we will not sit down, make the cheaters. But now all the young people are collectivists, whereby they sit on their phone, when you post it, they'll like it, they will even share it. But if you now say, okay, now today is the day, come out on the street, he's sitting down waiting for you to post picture so that he can share it, and then you control that way. He's a collectivist, not an activist. You cannot go and do your boy because this spirit, timid spirit, sycophancy, and because of this system that the political parties have developed, they call it godfatherism, godsonism, whereby the political parties, instead of establishing succession plans and ways of recruiting and nurturing talent among the political parties, so that young people can come up and take over from the older ones, they don't like it that way. What they do is that one person occupies the position, like my general secretary is in the position for 16 years. 16 years, one man. Meanwhile, all the young people are coming out. They are just followers, all the skills, because one man is in there for 16 years. But this is supposed to be participatory, rotational democracy. It's supposed to be participatory, rotational leadership. You take part, you explain for 4 years, another person comes, everybody participate. But one person is sitting in the place for 16 years, and he's not looking out for talent from the young people who can inherit them one day. He's looking for the one who is loyal to him personally, who doing his bidding, so that he can one day shift to become chairman, and that person will become secretary, and then that person will be beholden to him.
So that is it.
So we are not talking about the future of the party or the country. We are talking about our own personal power, how to protect it, how to nurture it, how to grow it. So the passivity of the opposition is part of the reason why the impunity is being perpetuated. If the opposition would wake up and develop a backbone and be able to come together, all these fragmentations, fix the country, this, provide this, everybody must come together as one voice, Ghana first. And I'm sure that the MPP will even be running away before 2024 because they will be sure. In fact, they will abandon their mantra of breaking the eight.
Break the eight.
Right now, the audacity that these guys have to even say that they want to break the eight, the sheer audacity that these guys have messed up so much. You have the impunity. You've killed journalists. You have stolen so much. You are bringing a Japa back after all this while, and you still have the temerity to say you want to break the eight. That kind of boldness does not come from nothing. In our parlance, they say if a blind man is standing, is saying that he's going to throw a stone at you, he's already standing on the stone. On the stone. So if these guys say they're going to break the eight, I believe that they are standing on something, especially building upon what they did in 2020 with the brutal force they used. Yeah. And without any righteous indignation from Ghanaians. Nobody went on the street to demonstrate against the killing of almost 10 people in Tachimasa. Nobody went out to make a demonstration. When Mohammed Kaka, the Fix the Country campaigner, was killed by MPP supporters, and the DCE, MCE sponsored and spearheaded it. The MCE is free man working. So these people have been so emboldened, the NPP government has been so emboldened that they don't intend to change their modus operandi because they know that 2020 we use violence, we succeeded. Now we are not afraid of you. Your founder Rollins is not even there anymore. He's the one we're even afraid of. He's no more there. And therefore we can do whatever we like. And so we must be able to come out with that. In fact, especially we the media must be able to come out of the tyranny that we are currently facing if we are going to help to rescue this country in 2024 from the claws of the NPP.
Let me get a clarification from your side. Yes. If you look at the NPP, it looks as if they have made a massive investment in the media arena as compared to the NDC.
Yes.
And even when NDC was in office, it's like we more or less, the NDC more or less focused on the MPP media houses than focusing on their own media houses.
That's right.
Now, there's a law that says that a political party should not be given the media license to own frequencies.
Yes.
Now, but under the guise of these individuals who are all more prone to the various political parties, we have just count them. Most of the media houses are politically inclined. So if you look at the media per capita, you see that it's so huge, but it's more to the advantage of the MPP.
That's right.
Is it part of the let me say the policies or the core the points of your social democracy not to focus on the media development of the media landscape?
I think it's a very misguided understanding of social democracy. If social democracy will make us not invest in the media, then it's a very misguided understanding of social democracy. Because look, I think part of the reason why it is this way is because we don't get it that the NDC doesn't get it that the media is not. It's also a business. It's a business. It's called corporate media for a reason, because the media is corporate media. Their first priority is their profits. That is corporate media. Their first priority is to their profits. They're not independent press. We don't have independent press in our country. The press is either to the right or to the left. There are no center. There are no media houses that are in the center. So when people invest in their media houses, they will put their mouths where their money is. And so the NDC, when the NDC was in power, the NDC missed this point and assumed that the media is still something that happens automatically. The NDC did not understand manufactured consent. That it is that you actually create your alternative reality like Trump did in America and like the NPP are doing. Because once your media are singing the same song, and that is the only narrative that the people are hearing, they won't believe it. You don't have your own voice. If you wake up and say you're boycotting the opposition media, but they are the only ones who are background, they spew out the lies, you boycotted it. You don't have your own media. When Radio Gold was closed, the NDC had no media house to attend that they can claim to be their own, because the NDC did not invest in media. And I think that thinking that we are socialists and we are not doing business. How come, for example, that even Radio Gold have been closed down for lack of renewal of their license or paying their license fee? How could that be possible? Because you are a business entity, and you are also a mouthpiece of the opposition. Why would you not pay? Is it because our leaders have a different concept of capitalism, whereby they just consume, they don't have to invest, because even social media, there's a lot of investment that must be done in social media, because at least with social media you can call it independent media, because everybody can take an independent position. You can create your own army, social media army for the opposition. But the NDC is not doing that. Why is it that the MPP in 2016 were able to collate their results even ahead of the Electoral Commission? Ahead of the NDC, the MPP collated their results and they declared themselves winners. And the Electoral Commission confirmed in 2016. The NDC could not collate independently the results. Why? Is it that there was no machinery in place? There was no investment in place? There was. So what happened? People chopped the money. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. The machinery, or didn't have the people with the skills. These people are all over the world. You can't even go to America, UK, and bring specialists to come and run an operation to collect your results. But we failed in 2016. We failed in 2020. We are not able to master the technology. And I think partly it's also because we have a leadership that does not look out for talent, to gather talent, and to see who can contribute the best to the outcome. They're looking for people they like. If they don't like you, they don't work with you. So you can be skillful, you can be talented, but if they don't like you, if the people who are close to power don't like you, then they don't want to get you involved. And therefore, when the time comes, they are exposed. And then you wonder why is it that the NDC only composed of the Daily Post, in terms of newspapers, the Daily Post of my Daily Post, even the lens, which belongs to Gogo and the Kakam, is now for the MPP. The informer, that's the informer, which was on the line, the informer, which is supposed to be Gogo and newspaper, is now working for the MPP. So it is all about we are now seeking for the MPP. So now we have the Herald by Larry Dogwe, and then the Kosis Daily Post. These are not national newspapers. These are just circulating Accra. But the MPP have the Daily Guide, which is second to the Daily Graphic. The Daily Guide is the most widely distributed opposition news outlet in Ghana. The Daily Guide. Peace FM, which is the local FM, a local language FM station, has the widest reach in the whole country because they speak Twi, and everybody from every part of the country, whether they're from Wa or Kandiga or whatever, Twi, small Twi, you understand. So they are penetrating with their message all the time. But ask, what can we boast of? What can we boast of? Meanwhile, it was the NDC that deregulated the media sector.
The media space, yes.
The telecommunication sector. It was the NDC that gave the license to the telecos, to the even the license to Joy FM, to all these media houses. But what happened? Some of our own people took the licenses and sold them to MPP people. They sold them to MPP people because these people understand the business of media. And so we are now at this point where we cannot boast of our own war chest. And even social media, that is an opportunity for us to neutralize them. We are not investing in the right equipment, the right setup, the right application, the right team, the right training as compared to the NPP. And that's why I'm saying that, honestly, I believe that the NDC needs some house cleaning. I believe that the NDC needs to sweep away a lot of the leaders who actually, I believe that they're out of sync with the postmodern political trends and the scientific thinking that goes on in terms of sentiment analysis, social media activism, and collectivism. How the young people these days, the young people want to watch video for 1 minute, 50 seconds, 30 seconds. They don't have time for long English grammar. So if you want to read the young people, brevity is very crucial. The old method of communication is gone, new method. But if you have the ones leading all this who don't understand these new methods, then you the ones behind who understand it will never have the opportunity to execute. Yeah. And therefore, we are sitting here lamenting when it is that we should actually be taking the lead, the commanding lead in this field of political communication. And I'm very sad about it. But I hope that we have some time, and I hope that these changes, sweeping changes, will come within the opposition NDC. And that next time when the NDC gets the opportunity to rule again, it will build its own independent war chest in terms of the media war chest, rather than just sitting down, throwing our hands in the air, and expecting to win power by default. Those days are gone.
Yeah, I think so. And we're running out of time, but all the same, just take a rest. We'll come back and then we'll just drift a little and look at Because you raised certain issues about the structure or the executive position of the NDC, and then going in as an opposition party and trying to come to the rescue of the entire country come 2024. So we'll just take a bit of time to look at it, and then we will conclude. But for now, let me just take a few of the messages from our viewers from on Facebook, and then those on YouTube as well. Viz Ghana says, "Good evening, watching you from Edukrom, Akwapem in the Eastern region. Good show." David Bagon Luri, unfortunately, I think you wanted to write something, but it didn't come up. Then Rose says, "Good evening." Then NDC Diaspora Union, journalism has become a crime in Ghana under Akufo-Addo. God have mercy on us. I'm watching you on YouTube from Amsterdam, Holland. Thank you very much for being part of the show, and for all those who have joined you on your link. Patience Danko, once again, always part and parcel of the program. I always pray for brave journalists working in Ghana. I'm watching you from Hamburg, Germany. Big brother Charles McCarthy is live. He says Mahama must be the one upping his game. And I'm sure when we come back, my brother will tell us how possible that the hopeful presidential candidate of the NDC could start a different strategy of upping his game as the party goes through this restructuring. Bennett Yadom from South Africa. Bennett, I hope you are doing very well. He says the MPP have cooked a plan to steal their slogan of breaking the eight. However, the NDC will not sit this time around and allow them to succeed at their evil agenda. Grace talks. Oh, NDC will surely come to the aid of Ghana. Grace, good evening. Watching you live from Stuttgart. Oh, good job, comrades. Oh, Grace, all the other messages, we are grateful. All the other messages seems to have come without any attachment. Grace again, and then Rose. So all of you watching us, especially those on the YouTube channel as well, we are very grateful for joining us. And we are running out of time, but we'll just ask my guest this evening, Dennis, just to tell us what the presidential candidate, former President Mahama, could do to save the face of the opposition going into election 2024. What can they do right now?
In order not to be misquoted, it is better to be clear that we don't have a candidate yet in the NDC.
Yeah.
Of course, there are many of us who think that the status quo will remain and that there's no way that Mahama will change. But in principle, some of us are internal Democrats. We are Democrats through and through. We believe in internal democracy. We believe that it is not for nothing that the Constitution, the party Constitution, makes room for internal elections. The internal elections is not just meant to choose a leader democratically. It is also meant to be a process. That's why it's a long process from a registration of members to branch elections, to ward elections, to constituency, to regional, to national, to flag bearership. This process is actually an organic process that ensures that by the end of the process, that the party is energized. The party machinery is a fuel, is greased. The engines are greased, and the party is out of apathy. It's mobilized. It's ready as a machine for election. It's ready to march on the street when you call them. That process is that scientific and organic process. It's not a process that you can skip. If you skip it, there are consequences. If you skip it for temporary expediency or convenience, or just to make it easy for a candidate for somebody to become a candidate, there will be long-term consequences, because you are then going to have a candidate who may be a winnable candidate, but you then have an apathetic following who are come out of the apathy. They won't come out to vote, so they will vote low voter turnout. There will not be the party machinery, the organs will be inactive. The youth organizers will sit in their corner somewhere because they are not motivated, they are not inspired, they are not they are not spirited. They are not spirited enough. So that internal process is very crucial, and I think that the earlier that the NDC actually accelerates the whole process, the better, because there are so many opportunities for the party to be able to use to organize around it, and that's why I'm happy that there are news of other people who are going to come up or who are coming up, and that there's going to be some level of competition, so that at the end of the day, I don't even believe that it is good for any leader to get power on the silver platter, because even when people fight for power and they win it, they still get corrupted by power. Look at President Akufo-Addo. He fought for how many years to just become a president? But after having finally got a president, the power to be president, he's abusing the power. He has been corrupted by power. That's why they say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So imagine a man that suffers so much to get power and he still gets corrupted by the power. How about if a man doesn't suffer and he gets it? It is not good for a man to get power on the small planet. That's what I believe. And therefore, I encourage that internal democratic elections. If Mahama is the most popular candidate, as we've all come to say, then the internal elections will not do anything to him. It will just actually increase his credibility. It will then cement his popularity, and it will give him legitimacy. So, if I'm a Mahama supporter, I'll be happy and encouraging that there should be this competition internally. But if you ask me that, based on popular opinion, people think that he's going to be our candidate, blah blah, what should he do? Or anyone who emerges our candidate, what should he do in order to counter the MPP's plan to bring the aid? I would say the first thing you have to do is that you cannot have the same people that have been around you for the past 8 years continue to be around you. Because if you continue to circle yourself with the same people who have been around you for when you are in power, and the same people who are around you when you are in power are around you when you are in opposition, and the same people are going to take you back into power, then that means that there's not going to be any change at all. So if the same people who were with Mahama in 2020, when it is that the MPP stole the election and actually shot about 7-8 people to kill them in Tachima, and there was no action, there was no counteraction, there was no strategy to buttress it. If it's the same people, I am not sure that in 2024, when the MPP do the same thing, that they will have a different answer to it, rather than the same answer that the same timid, cowardice answer, which is to withdraw. I don't think there will be a different method at all. And so the first thing I will say is that Mahama needs to reshuffle his inner team, the people around him. You need new blood. You need new people who will look into your face and tell you the truth, who will not just come and lick your boots and just say what you want them to hear. You need to get rid of the sycophants, because for the sycophants, they actually isolate you and they keep you out of reality. They tell you only what you want to hear, and your feet is not on the ground. So you may live in loyalty, you may love these people around you, but if you want to pull everybody along with you, you need that reshuffle. If you are in opposition leader, you cannot reshuffle your team. How can you reshuffle the team when you're in government? How can you reshuffle the team when you're in government? One of the reasons I believe that has made Akufo-Addo so lean as a president of his, because he cannot even reshuffle his team. He cannot sack anybody and replace anybody. He does not even have the courage to sack his own appointees. It gives us the impression that he's not the one doing the appointment. There are other doing the appointment.
There are, yeah, and
How can you not disappoint people that you have appointed as a president with executive power? So I want to see that demonstrated by anybody that is leading the opposition, even from opposition, that you don't need to like people to work with them. You want power. You want to rescue Ghana from the NPP. It doesn't matter whether you like Sakut or not. If you don't like Sakut, but you know that Sakut is the guy, he's the man in the arena, and he's the guy who has integrity, who can stand up and face these people. You have to invite Sakut to come and get involved. Don't say that, oh, Sakut, I don't like Sakut, because Sakut doesn't obey authority. Sakut, you can't control Sakut, so therefore, let's isolate him. If you do that, what you are sinning against the people of Ghana, and you are also sinning against the founding principles of the NDC. Because at the end of the day, you are going to, if we lose the election again in 2024, if the NPP breaks the 8, it will not be because Ghanaians love the NPP or Ghanaians like the NDC. It will be because the NDC has not demonstrated leadership. And the people can tell if you will be able to lead from opposition before you get into power. So I want to see people, I want to see pure talent being brought into this campaign, presidential campaign, and around the president. I want to see the president, or former president, look out for talents within the NDC, home and abroad, whether he knows them, he doesn't know them. Just go on scouting for young people. Give a new face, reposition the NDC. Reposition it, not to say that everybody that was working with you was a bad person or was incapable or incompetent, but that there's a need to be dynamic because you are evolving. Things are changing. Now, when you are 40 years or 45 years, you are too old. You cannot understand Snapchat and Instagram as well as those who are 25 and 30 years or less than that. They understand it better than you who's 40 years or 45 years because you are too old. You maybe understand Facebook, but you don't understand this other smaller one. So you need to invite people at that age bracket who are brilliant to come and get involved and to learn from it. I think we have this situation where we have a leadership that doesn't realize that they can learn a lot from the young people. That knowledge right now is in the hands of the young people. It's not in the hands of the older guys. Because the young people know how to use the search engine. The young people know how to find information. That's why young people are geniuses. That's why the people who have created the most phenomenal inventions of the 21st century are all young people. The guys who created Facebook, Twitter, all these things that has captivated the whole world, young people. But we are in a country whereby we still think that wisdom is in the gray hair, and therefore, you see a group of gray hair men who go and sit down, and that speaker sit down in 1960, and they talk about modern politics and sit down in 1960. But these guys, if they don't open the door for young people can never penetrate. So I need that kind of dynamic opposition. I need to see that Jomama is bringing in new people. I mean, can you imagine that the NDC has been involved for almost 5 years, and then when you see President Mahama somewhere giving some speech on the economy, whether in the Harvard University or in Davos somewhere, who is standing with him? Sadekwe, the former finance minister, who is very famous for his hard economic measures that he doesn't do this time. Now, everywhere President Mahama is going, Sadekwe is working with him. You are reminding the people that when the NDC come out of power, we are going back to Sadekwe economics, which is not better than what is his name? Foriata economics, which is not better than Baumia economics. So why are you still trying to create the impression that we don't have economists in the NDC apart from Sadekwe? Is Sadekwe the only economist in the NDC? No. That's the point I'm trying to make. I want to see President Mahama demonstrate the variety of talent and display and parade the variety of talent in the NDC. And allow talent to emerge naturally. Allow people to emerge naturally that will attract the general public. Because the general public now are tired of the old faces and the broken record voices. They want new voices. They want fresh faces. They want people with integrity. People without a past of going to Brazil to go and eat coconut and cry on TV, or people without this track record of dead goat syndrome, etc. People don't want to be reminded about all these things. People want to see a fresh MDC, fresh Mahama, fresh ideas, so that it will be a credible alternative. That's what I want to see from our former president.
Third, Dennis, I'm pretty sure if we allow this, we will go on and on and on. I think we will need another time that will discuss only NDC and look at the NDC structure, how NDC can reposition itself going into 2024. It will be a good opportunity, and I pray that you make time for it. I think, to our various, our cherished viewers, we're very grateful for joining us. But before we sign off, I think you will need to give them your passing words, and then let's see. What are your views?
I totally think that having the opportunity to be on a platform like yours, a global platform, media platform like yours, new media, is really a great privilege. And when you have this opportunity, what we have to realize is that we actually speak for the masses, of people who don't have the privilege that you and I have to be able to speak to a large audience like this. And therefore, we have to see ourselves as hill figures. We are actually standing on the hills, you know, and a lot of our people are looking up to us, you and I, and to speak for them. And therefore, we have to see our role as a very sacred role as journalists, as media people, as public intellectuals, and really to be out there as warrior philosophers, as people who question the status quo, who question the existing norms, and who try to suggest new paradigms, because that is the only way that we can bring about change. And if we don't do that, with the opportunity we have, with the microphone to amplify the voice of the masses, if we don't do that, we think that our country is isolated from things that has happened in other African countries, or even in other continents. It is not true. We have had civil war in our country before, or near civil war. When in 1979, if Rawlings and Gold did not emerge, and when they said let the blood flow, I think our country would have burned into ashes. And if that could happen in 79, it could happen again. History always repeats itself, but with emphasis. And therefore, we have to be minded and guided by the history, and therefore speak up when it is necessary. Because when we speak a little too late, it might be useless. Whatever we speak might be useless. The timing is very crucial, and it is time for the moral voices in our society to stand up and speak for the masses. It's a moral obligation to actually speak in the face of injustice, in the face of impunity, in the face of corruption, in the face of a collapsing economy, in the face of police and military brutality. You know, we need democratic accountability, and therefore we those who have the voices, let's not bury our conscience. Let's not bury our voices because of our personal convenience. Let's stand up and speak for the masses.
Thank you very much.
History will absorb us. History will absorb us.
Thank you very much. Wherever you are, Benny says, stand up and speak the truth and speak for the masses. So we're very grateful once again for joining us, and to our cherished viewers, we are very grateful for all of you, wherever you have watched us on Facebook, Instagram, even on YouTube. We are grateful once again that you have joined us. Greetings to Ludmilla, and truly, we will come your way again next week with another version of MyView. Thank you very much, and have a blessed night.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
The country where I come from, the truth is an irony, just like animal farm. Justice mean inequity, so who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Christian can say silence, Islamic leaders silence, kings and queens silence.